Hi there, welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. On this channel, we learn alcohol ink, watercolor, and other creative art projects together. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get started. Hello, friends. This morning I went downstairs to my studio because I really needed to clean it up. It was such a mess. And of course, I couldn't help myself. I had to paint. I got an idea to try and create centers for my alcohol ink flowers using different tools. So I just fiddled around with this. I think I need to perfect it a little bit more, but I wanted to share my test with you. So you can see here I've put down some pitch black on 4 pieces of photo paper, and of course I'm using the matte side, and then I dried it. And you can see on the right hand side I have some silicone brushes, I have a glass pen, I have a dotting tool, and I have some micro brushes. So here in this bottle, I have the color crimson. There was only a little bit left in the bottle. So I added some alcohol to whatever was in there. I have no measurements. So I just mixed some alcohol into whatever was left and I blew out some petals. And I'm not trying to blow out the perfect flower because really what I want to do is practice creating centers using different tools other than a micro brush. And this is what I came up with. So there's my first flower, and that turned out kind of cute. And here in these bottles, I have alcohol mixed with ink. Anytime I have a bottle with just a few drops of ink in it, I pour some alcohol in it, shake it up, and put it into these needle nose bottles. So I have no recipe for this. I can't tell you how much alcohol is in there because if there's any green left over, I pour all the greens into the same bottle, all the reds into the same bottle. So there's no measurements. If it's too dark, you can just add a little bit more alcohol. If it's too light, add more ink from another bottle. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just blowing out some petals. And that green one, I don't know why, it had something grainy in it, so my petals came out grainy, but I still used it. Again, this was not about the flower, it's about creating centers. So I'm still going to use that. So here I'm just finishing up. I'm not even sure, is this number 3 or number 4? I think this was number 3. So I'm just, again, blowing out some quick flowers, cleaning up my mess. And at this point, this was number 3 because I realize now that towards the end, when I was looking for my 4th one, I realized that I did not blow out the 4th flower. So look at the mess that I made with that red. I blew the ink all over the place. I had the PSI on my compressor set too high, and then the angle that I was using was blowing the ink all over the place. But only the red. I think it was just the angle. So anyway, let me bring you a little bit closer here. You can see I'm going to use my little shot glass, and there we go. I'm pouring my snow cap into the shot glass, the back side of the shot glass. And you can see these are a few that I had practiced earlier, another day actually. And that's what gave me the idea to try different tools to create centers other than micro brushes. So when I put my snow cap on my little shot glass, I like to use the dryer to thicken it up a little bit. Drying it makes it a little bit thicker, and I find that it works better for me that way. So here I'm using a dotting tool. And what I'm doing is dipping the smallest end of the dotting tool into the snow cap. And then once I touch the paper, I run the dotting tool across to create these elongated shapes. And I don't think I dried it enough because it was still a little transparent, the snow cap, but I do like the way the dotting tool worked. And I didn't want to just create dots like you see me doing here for the bottom of this center. I wanted to create something a little bit different. So that's why I touched the paper with the dotting tool and then ran it across a little bit to create these teardrop shapes. And I really do like the way this one turned out. And I think that if I played with it a little bit more, I could do it even better. But I know there are a lot of people who don't have micro brushes. So that's what inspired this video, was to try and use what I have or what most people may already have. I don't know. It's the stuff that I have. So again, just trying to do something a little bit different. I really like the way that one turned out. It was pretty simple, not a lot of effort. And this is a close-up of that center. With a little practice, I think I could really make a pretty center with that tool. And for this one, I am using a silicone brush. I have a variety of silicone brushes that I got on Amazon, and I've used them a couple of times, but I thought let's try creating a center with them. So the one that I'm using has a flat tip and it's at an angle. So I'm just using the thin side. I'm not running it across with the thick side, just the thin side. And I'm creating these marks. And this is kind of cute. And again, I think that with a little practice, I could perfect this, but it made a really pretty center. And then I also used the tip of it to add some little dots in between the lines that I created. Once I was finished with that, I also took a gel pen and I added a few lines in there. And here's a close-up of how that center looks. Now on to number 3. For this one, I decided to use another silicone brush, and this one has an oval flat tip. So I'm just using that tip and I'm kind of twisting it a little bit so I get a little angle with my marks. And this one reminds me a lot, or the marks that it's making look a lot like the marks that I was making with the dotting tool. Just a little bit different, but very similar. And this was much easier than the dotting tool. And I do like the way this one turned out. And again, with this one, once I was finished, I used the gel pen to add a few dots or lines in there. And here's a close-up of that center. I really like this one. All right, so on to number 3. No, this is number 4, the one that I forgot to blow out. And I'm not in frame very well, but later on I realize it and I do get into frame. Here we go. So I really actually like the color of these petals, and I want to try this flower on a larger sheet of paper. I really like the way this looks. This is just a bunch of yellows mixed in a bottle with some alcohol. So for this one, I decided to try using a glass pen to see what kind of center that would give me. And be sure to check the description box. As always, I will link everything in there. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Or if there's something you'd like to see me try, leave it in the comments. I would love to try different things. So now with this glass pen, I had a little difficulty. I think that my ink was sitting too long and it dried too much. So I did add some fresh snow cap to my little shot glass, and that seemed to help a little bit. But this one did take quite a while. I kept having to dip the pen into the ink. So while you watch me fiddle with this center, I'll remind you Again, that all the products will be linked in the description box, so take a look if you're interested in knowing what products I'm using, and consider joining our Facebook group, Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials, where you can post your versions of the paintings and techniques learned on this channel. We have a really great group of members that are very encouraging and talented, so I hope you consider joining and that I see you there. So, like I said, this one was a little bit more difficult. I kept adding fresh ink to the cup because I was having difficulty picking it up with such a fine tip. But with a little bit of effort, it turned out pretty nice. I was happy with the way it looked. These all look like fluffy little centers, which is a little different than using the micro brush and just creating those dots. So I hope that you find this encouraging and inspiring, and that you look around and see what you have in your home to create different centers for your flowers. You might be surprised to see what you can do with anything. I was trying to look for a toothpick. I wanted to see what I could do with a toothpick, but I couldn't find one. And like I said, I was in my studio. I meant to go down there to clean up. I wasn't thinking about creating a video, but I felt a little inspiration, so I figured I would run with it. And this is how it turned out. Here's a close-up of that center. And now here are all four all together. And now you'll see where I used a gel pen to fill in some of the areas where I thought I needed a little bit something more. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and again that you are inspired to try different tools to create the centers for your flower. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.